Once ready to use, the pastry will be rolled out. You need to have a dish to cook your quiche in. Grease that lightly to prevent it from the pastry from sticking. So a nicely greased dish. If you don't have a dish, you could use a cake tin, but just line it with foil first so that it's easier to lift out, unless you have a loose bottomed tin. So that's greased, and then I'm going to roll the pastry. So you would need to allow your pastry to be out of the fridge for about 10 to 15 minutes before using it. Otherwise it's going to be difficult to roll. Now we want a circle, so I'm going to get that into a circular shape from the beginning and roll it out, remembering to roll from the middle forward and the middle back. Okay, keep turning, keep shaping. Okay, remember to put flour on your rolling pin so that it doesn't stick. Just roll and rotate. Okay, roll and rotate. It needs to be big enough to go across the base and up the sides of the dish that you've chosen to use. If you find that you have fat coming out of it, don't worry. If it's on the worktop, just scrape that clear and dust with flour. So keep lifting, keep moving so that it doesn't stick to your worktop. Okay? So rotate it, so roll, rotate, roll, rotate. Now it's really important that we stick with the rules for short crust pastry, keeping things cool. So try not to handle it with the palms of your hands. Okay. And allow it to chill once you've rolled. So we just need to test that. If it looks like it's going to go up just a little bit more, a little bit wider. Encourage it into a circular shape. Okay, any spare pastry that you have left could be used for decoration in other dishes, but not on a quiche. Or you could use it, turn it into gem tarts. Okay, so the way I will do this is to lift it over the rolling pin. You've got one of two ways. You can lift it over the rolling pin and carry it across, or another way would be to lift it like so, gently, and then you've got the centre that you can pop into your dish and then gently unfold it. Okay, either way will work. And then use your knuckle to encourage it down, lifting the pastry up. Okay. And then that's ready to pop into the fridge to chill. Now we allow pastry to chill before we bake because it will then avoid or minimize the shrinkage that you get. Okay, so that's going to go into the fridge now to chill for 5 or 10 minutes. I've taken my pastry out of the fridge and I'm ready to now put that in the oven to part cook it. I've set the oven on 180 degrees, gas mark 5, in order to what we call pre-bake and bake blind the pastry case. Okay, so in order to do that and get it ready for that, I'm not going to cut it across the top here. What I'm going to do is actually just trim around the edges, but leave a bit over the top. Okay. So just cut the excess off, because otherwise that's a lot of pastry going to waste. Just cut off, break off. Okay, so that I can keep some of it for some jam tarts or pasties So just cut, I'm cutting against the dish, just pressing lightly to break it, okay? So that pastry can be put in a bag and used to make some jam tarts. Okay, I started off with 200 grams of pastry. What that means is you make pastry starting with 200 grams of flour. Okay, so that's all ready to go in the oven. Just cut a little bit more off. Okay. And that's going to go onto a baking tray now and go straight into the oven. You would just pierce it with a fork to stop the pastry case from rising. Okay. So you pierce that all over with a fork, and then I'm going to scrunch up the paper. I've got a piece of baking parchment here. It helps hold it in better if it's scrunched up. Okay, so lining that with baking parchment, not greaseproof paper. Greaseproof paper will stick. And you can use ceramic baking beans, or you can actually use any dried bean. I tend to sort of keep dried peas or beans, and then just reuse them and tub them up in between. You can use rice. Rice is very good because rice gets right over to the edges. It spreads better and holds your paper down. So basically that would go into the oven now, and it will bake blind for 10 minutes. Okay, and I'll come back to you once that's finished. Baking blind. The pastry has baked blind and has come out of the oven. It's not quite cooked, but I'm going to take the beans out. So you lift those out, put them to one side to cool, and then you can put them back in the container to use again. What I will do, because you can see there's some oily patches here, pastry needs a higher temperature than, or it needs more severe cooking than eggs will within the filling. So I'm going to put this in for another 5 minutes just to dry these oily patches on the pastry out, and then I'll come back and fill it. The pastry has come out of the oven. It's now almost set completely through. And what I'm doing is going round with a knife, just cutting those extra edges off now, just to neaten it off a bit. So just go trimming. And you end up with a much nicer finish. For the quiche filling, I've got 200 to 300 millilitres of milk and 2 eggs. It's 1 egg per 100 to 150 mils of milk. So I'm beating the eggs first just to mix them, and then adding that to the milk so that it's well mixed in. Okay, so that we've got that's our setting agent, our custard as it were. So the egg in that is going to set. So having mixed the egg and the milk, okay, we have mushrooms sliced and diced. I've lightly fried the onions and the bacon, so they're going to go in first. So they go in, and we'll spread those across the bottom of the base. Spread those across the base. Spoon will do to spread those out. Okay, and then from there you can add cheese. I'm going to add some chopped mushrooms, just sprinkle those on, and follow that with a little bit of cheese. So there's 50 grams of cheese going in here. I'm going to sprinkle some of it on, and then onto that, then I will also put some sliced mushrooms. Okay. You can put chopped peppers in here if you wanted to. You could have Stilton and or blue cheese of some sort, so Stilton and broccoli. It's really, you can put all sorts of things in to fill it. Okay, so that's that. Spread that out and then pour in the egg mixture very carefully. Okay. Now, I've used rather a large dish today. It could actually cope or could take a little bit more filling, but I'm going to leave it at that. So you could get away with a slightly shallower dish if you wanted to. That's going to go into the oven now for 25 to 40 minutes until it's set. What will happen while that's cooking is that the protein in the egg is going to coagulate. So it's going to denature, it will coagulate and set the filling. Okay, you get some setting of the protein within the milk, but it's mainly the egg that will do that. And but that needs a just slightly gentler approach. It takes longer at a slightly lower temperature. Okay, so that's going to go in the oven for 25 to 40 minutes. Out of the oven, and if you wobble it, you'll see that it's quite firm. You're looking for that to be firm and set. Okay, and before I put it in, I put a sprinkling of herbs on, which you could put into the actual filling. It's really down to personal preference. Okay, so that's your cooked quiche ready to portion, serve and share. Enjoy.